Hey guys, I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and today we're going to make the English Ivy quilt. We're adding that block to our classic and vintage series because it's such a classic block and it fits in any era. We love the English Ivy quilt block because of how timeless it is. You can drop it into any fabric line, from vintage feed sacks to modern brights, and it will just work. This quilt pattern was originally published in the Kansas City Star newspaper in 1931, but it was in use well before that. Today I'll be showing this in the Starberry collection by Corey Yoder and Moda Fabrics. I love this combination because even though the collection is a Christmas line that has red, greens, and blacks, we've just pulled out all the greens for our quilt, which gives it a really nice autumn feel. For today's tutorial, you can download the free English Ivy block pattern at Fat Quarter Shop for the block. And if you want to make it into a quilt, we have a low-priced PDF that has sizes for lap, twin, queen, and table runner. All your links are below. Our quilt block uses 1.5 inch finished and 3 inch finished half square triangles. So we wrote the pattern the traditional way, and if you want to make this with triangle paper, you can purchase the 1.5 and 3 inch finished half square triangle paper by Triangles on a Roll. So you can either make the triangles the traditional way, or you can use paper. Either one works. Before we start, I wanted to show you my fabrics that we're using. We're using the green from Starberry. These are for our blocks. We used a white on white from the collection for the background and for the border. We used a solidish green for our binding, and then this is what we're using as our backing. So now I'm going to show you how to make the block. So we're going to start with our small half square triangles. We wrote the pattern the traditional way, but today I'm going to show you how you can use Triangles on a Roll. So for your green and your white, this would be your fabric D and your fabric H, cut one rectangle 3 by 12.5 inches for both colors. Put your fabrics right sides together, and then cut out 5 squares from your Triangles on a Roll paper. You'll want to pin this down where you're pinning, where you're not near the lines, so that you can sew on these lines without having to remove the pins. Once you have that pinned, lower your stitch length to about a 1.5, and on your dotted lines, you're going to stitch. For this quilt, I use Aurifil Color 2000, but I wanted to show you what it looks like with red thread. And if you look at it, all you have to do is stitch directly on your dotted lines. So once you have all of that sewn, you're going to cut on your solid lines. So just cut as straight as you can, and the more accurate you cut, the more accurate your half square triangles are going to come out. So here I'm cutting the solid lines in between. So I've got that done, and then the center line, we're also going to cut that. That doesn't have to be cut as accurately because that is in your seam allowance, but the outside does have to be cut accurately. So from here, what you're going to do, it's going to give you 10 half square triangles. You're going to pull the paper off. You're going to press this to one side, cut off your dog ears, and then you're going to press this open. And when you do that, it's going to look like this. And this is going to give you 10 different half square triangles that'll be 2 inch unfinished, but when you put them in the block, they will be 1.5 inch finished. You're only going to use 9 of them, so you will have 1 extra right here that you're not going to use, so you can just save that for another project. So then these half square triangles, they're going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and like I said, this one you're not going to use. Now we're going to move to make the larger half square triangles. This time I'm going to show you how to make these the traditional way. You're going to take a fabric G square and a fabric B square. You're going to put those right sides together. So now you can see if you draw the line from corner to corner, then you draw a line 1/4 inch from each side, you're going to stitch on these outside lines. And when you do that, it's going to look like this. Then you're going to cut in the center of this. That's going to give you 2 half square triangles. From there, cut your dog ears off, and you're gonna have 2 half square triangles that are 3.5 inches unfinished. And once you place them into your block, they're gonna be 3-inch finished. You're gonna use both of these. So now I'm gonna turn my block this way because this is actually the way the pattern is written. And when you look at your block, this is gonna be your corner unit. This is gonna be your left ivy unit. This is going to be your right ivy unit. And this is gonna be your stem unit. So let's start with our corner unit. You're gonna take a fabric C square. You're gonna take 5 of your half square triangles. Make sure you have everything going the right way. Then what you'll do is you'll sew these 2 together with a 1/4 inch seam, press, open. Then you're gonna add your fabric C square, press. Then you're gonna sew these 3 together, press, and you're gonna add those here. That's gonna give you the corner ivy leaf unit, and then when you look at the back, this is how it's pressed. Nice and flat, and by using those half square triangles, using triangles on a roll, you can see we don't have any excess fabric on the outside of that unit. Now this is your left unit and this is your right unit. To make the left unit, you're going to take a fabric I rectangle, 2 of your small half square triangle units, 1 of your large half square triangle units, and then just make sure you have everything going the right way. You're gonna sew these 2 together, press, and then add this, press. Then you're gonna add your fabric I rectangle, and that is going to be your left ivy unit, and it looks like this. Then you're gonna use those same fabrics you just used to make the right unit. To make your right unit, you're gonna place a large half square triangle, 2 small half square triangles, and your fabric I. You're gonna place these together with a 1/4 inch seam and sew those together. Then you'll add your fabric I rectangle, and this will be your right ivy unit, and that looks just like this. Now we're gonna make our stem unit. This is probably the hardest of all of the units. You're gonna take a fabric A and a fabric F square. On the wrong side of your fabric F square, draw a line from corner to corner. I'm using a friction pin because once you set it with heat, that line will disappear. So you're gonna take this, you're gonna stitch directly on this line, trim a 1/4 inch away, and press open. And when you do that, it's going to look like this. Then you're gonna take another fabric F square, draw a line on the wrong side, place that on the bottom right, pin in place, stitch directly on that line, and press. It's gonna look like this. So this one really takes a lot of pinning to get it in place. Then you're gonna take a fabric E square, draw a line from corner to corner, and here you can either place it here or here. It doesn't matter, but you do have to be green touching green. Pin that in place, stitch on the line, trim a 1/4 inch away, and this is going to be your stem unit. So you've got your stem unit, your right unit, your left unit, and your corner unit. And here you just want to make sure you don't accidentally swap these 2 just because they are very similar. So I would just make sure you're really checking against your pattern to make sure you have it going the right way. You're going to sew this together with a 1/4 inch seam and this together with a 1/4 inch seam. Again, press open. Pin these together, sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and then you will have your block that is right here. And when you look at the back, it's nice and flat. And like I said, you're gonna have 1 leftover small half square triangle. So I would say on this quilt, my biggest tip for you is to be really careful when you're cutting your fabrics. Be really careful when you're pressing, and you will have nice accurate points, and it's gonna be beautiful. One thing I did want to point out to you, when you're looking at this quilt, it looks nice and crisp. And I think the reason why is because we used a really nice clear white on white fabric that doesn't have anything else busy going in it. If you use a busy print for your background, you are going to lose some of the design. For our quilt, we set these blocks straight, but you can see from the antique quilts we showed earlier that it was popular to set them on point. If you want to try that but don't love doing setting squares, look up my cheater on point video and you can use the cutting for the 9-inch block from our free cheater on point cheat sheet. For the quilting, we quilted this in an abracadabra design, which is a nice swirl. We used a green tonal for our binding, and we used one of the prints from the block for our backing piece. When you're looking at this quilt, obviously you see a lot of green, but you can definitely envision this in all reds, all blues, aqua and white. This quilt has so much versatility. Even though it is an ivy block, it would still look great in other colors other than green. So this is our English Ivy tutorial. I'm so glad we finally added this block to our Classic and Vintage series because it is more advanced, but it's a beautiful block, and I can't wait to see what quilts you make with it. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.